Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're here another edition of Media Watch. Very significant time. This is the Thursday before the election coming up on Tuesday, which I have to say is in my lifetime. It's been a while. I'm 85 years old. I've seen a few of them, and this is going to be a very interesting one, very close. And in fact, we probably won't know the results of it that night. I mean, who actually is the president? Well, some of the places will be done, but counting all those votes now, because they haven't. I don't think they even count the mail-in votes, do they? They just get them. They don't actually.
I do not know.
Because if they did, it would leak out somewhere. Somebody would get paid off anyway.
That makes sense.
Anyway, so obviously this is the topic that we're going to cover a lot of talking about tonight, the election and all that, and. It's messy, but it's democracy. Democracy, by definition, is elections. That's what it is. A government of the people is conducted by electing people to represent you. Anyway, here with Rob, and he has a lot of stuff to show. We got the big screen here to do it. Bob, and by the way, Rob is here tonight. He's not on the satellite, as in the background there.
But by the miracle of personal appearance.
And he brought the thing with him.
I'm making a personal appearance.
I'm just making that up. Anyway, Rob, let's go.
Okay. Well, we wanted to talk a little bit about some of the other momentous things too, and also the events around them. So I think, the SpaceX and these most magnificent landings, including the one where we now have caught the huge booster coming down.
Yeah, you were on the rocket, and you went up, and then you were on this rocket, right?
It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Let's run this. Just so we see what we're talking about. I hope everybody saw
it. You need to see it on the screen. Here you go.
3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks.
Well, not to burn too much of our time there, but
that's
pretty freaking good.
That is amazing. And the one man that did it, we know to be Elon Musk. Elon Musk did it.
Now, I have wanted that since childhood. We were watching movies from the 50s and 60s, and rockets came down tail first, and they landed on the moon or whatever. But this is what I expected, and I expected this, frankly, 40 years ago.
Yeah, right.
not my first disappointment, probably not my last, but I'm glad we're here.
Well, yeah, when they landed on the moon and they landed on the moon and so on, they had a little bit of, they didn't have to a spot. They didn't have to go through the size of a barrel, and so on. It looked like the size of a barrel to get that rocket into.
But they did the moon landings pretty well.
Yeah, they did. Of course, they did land.
Yeah,
it was amazing. But that was amazing. Really amazing. I guess it saves money too. You get to use the rocket over again.
Oh yeah, that's the idea. See, you only get to commercialize space if you get to bring the unit cost down.
Right.
Because there was a point where we were probably spending $500,000 a pound to put stuff in orbit.
Yeah.
Now you might spend, 1,000th of that to put stuff in orbit, because you're not throwing away big expensive boosters every time. You say, well, I get to use this booster like 80 times.
Yeah, right.
Well, that's cheaper.
Right, exactly.
So now let's catch the.
Now, why are we bringing this up?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up because
we're getting to the point here, right?
That's right.
Hopefully, the audience knows where we're going with this.
Well, if they don't,
the Coastal Commission. Go ahead.
Yeah, we see the California Coastal Commission has some say over things that are launched from the coastal zone, and now Musk wants to do more launches, and the Space Force at Vandenberg, they want him to do more launches, and they're completely on board for this, and he's asked for more launches, and the Coastal Commission has said no, they don't want to allow more launches.
Why?
Well, that's just it. Who knows
Right.
why, except for the part where a bunch of them actually just went ahead and shot their big mouths off
Yeah.
at the meeting, and it got recorded, and
Right.
it's because they don't like his politics.
They don't like his politics.
I don't
So
like your
they-
politics, so
yeah.
you don't get to do
Yeah, get
the
to
thing
do-
that you want to do that's terrific and that the Space Force wants you to do, but I don't like your politics.
And then I've seen them, Elon on TV. He's very, when you see him talking and that, it's like it's just a normal guy. There's nothing really big about the guy. Although he is the richest guy in the world by far. I think the next four guys added together don't come up to how much he's worth. I saw was that there's some kind of thing that happened with the company this last week, and it was on TV and so on. And he made $37 billion in about 10 seconds, if that. Now, of course, the stock fluctuates considerably and so on. But he's worth, and his full family. His mother, father, brother, sister, cousins, and there's all kinds of people that are in the family, blood relations, together have $500 billion. That's their assets. They're a country all by themselves. In fact, they might do it. The one I love is he pointed out. He says that the Coast Commission. Now this goes back to nothing of the politics, of course. But they say they were against the rocket because if the rocket crashed and went into the ocean, it might hit one of the fishes. It might hit a whale or something like that and so on. And by the way, you're also concerned about whales, and so it's proven now that those big things they put out in the ocean,
The wind turbines?
wind turbines and so on, are dangerous to whales. They're killing the whales on the Atlantic coast, in fact. Killing the whales. They don't seem to be not quite so worried about that.
Well, you may have seen some discussion of like people who are vegans, and they say, oh, it's because I don't want any animals killed. You find out, oh, well, you're going to eat all these soybeans, you're going to eat all this other stuff. Well, that's all done monoculture. That means that you take land that had all sorts of animals, burrowing creatures, everything, and you plow the crap out of it, and then every other animal, every other insect, everything there dies except your soybeans.
Yeah.
So it just depends on whether it's animals that you find photogenic. And it's like, oh, look, it's an otter. And yes, do I like otters? Certainly I do.
Sure.
But somebody else, but every rat, vole, owl that ate them, all gone.
Yeah.
So people always think, this is common, they mistake their intentions, which may be excellent, with the actual result. They just assuming that their intentions come true, and everything is more complicated than that.
Right.
And there's an adage that goes with that. It's, we judge ourselves by our best intentions. Others,
by our actions,
right, no, by our best intentions.
Yeah.
Others judge us by our last worst act.
Yeah, right.
The last worst thing you did, that's how others see you.
Yeah.
Even though you, of course, see your intentions, they form your mind.
Believe
so
me,
you think that you're just swell. And every one of us is guilty of it. It's almost impossible to avoid it. But it's a perspective that you ought to keep in mind. And I believe the word I'm searching for is humility.
Yeah.
We need to have a little humility about how much our actions and our results match our intentions.
Well, Elon has sued the Coastal Commission now, and since he has got $1/4 of $1 billion,
$1/4 of $1 trillion,
he can pretty much hire a lot of lawyers and so on. And the Coastal Commission, they're going to have to answer to a lot of places. Plus the fact, of course, that at this meeting, what they did say that was all this generals and people. The media that wanted to see this, that he would be able to launch these rockets. And of course, their idea was that this is a security thing. That's why Seattle. Yes, he has a few of the story that he has of his own, but that he launches for his different. I guess he's got some kind of Starlink or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Starlink that he's trying to do, and other things too, for that matter. He wants to actually go to Mars. He has the idea that, and I wouldn't doubt the guy for 1 second, to be honest with you. He might find a way to do it.
Great quote for Elon regarding Mars. He says, "I want to die on Mars. Hopefully not on impact."
Yeah, that's just that's the kind of thing he would say. He's a real easygoing guy. You listen to him, you can really understand what he's talking about, and he has he certainly has the money to do pretty much anything he wants, and like that rocket going in that little basket, whatever the heck it is, and so on. He did it. Boeing is only the real competition to what this what do you call it?
Competition to SpaceX?
SpaceX and so on, and other things and so on. Well, it's mostly SpaceX and all that. But they're not doing too well. In fact, Boeing is getting a little worried about building airplanes. Even who knows what they've had a lot of problems with those kind of situations. Now it's supposed to be going to Mars or launching rockets. The federal government, the government is giving Elon Musk contracts because they know he is the one that can do it. He's the only one that can do it. They can't even do it, not on the cheap anyway. They probably hire him to work for him, I guess, to make him a general or something like that to do it.
Elon has admitted something that I'm very happy about, and that is that he understands how crucial the moon is to going to Mars. And the reason for that is, look, going to Mars that's a long trip, and you need to get a lot of experience in space and a lot of experience, taking things down to a planet, bringing them back up, and it will never be easier than it is here.
Right. Getting on the moon.
Going to the moon. Because if you're having problems and it's the moon, if you have a ship ready to launch, you can relieve them in 3 days.
Yeah.
If you pre-position your spare parts and supplies in lunar orbit, you could be on the moon and have a problem, and you could be landing your relief supplies in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
If you need advice from anyone on Earth, the light speed delay is 2.5 seconds. So this is it. This is our backyard. It will never be easier. So if you want to practice, you practice here.
Yeah. Right.
He gets that.
When you say practice here, I mean between the Earth and the moon.
But the Earth and the moon.
Yeah,
right,
we've been on the moon a couple of times, that's for sure.
We've had something like 7 landings. Is
that right?
With people.
Yeah.
And it's really pretty great. And when people will tell you, "Oh, that was all faked," that I understand that there's really almost no lie I wouldn't put past the governments.
Yeah.
But when it comes to faking that, every country with significant, even radio capability, was watching all of our landings, was watching all of that, and all of them would have been capable of detecting a fake. And maybe Britain or France wouldn't rat us out, but Russia and China hated us.
Yeah.
and if they caught us faking, and you think that they wouldn't tell? Of course we did it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's again. Like I said, that's what happened in the Eisenhower when they launched the orbit, and they launched their own satellite. Remember, and they sent that monkey up there and so on. But the United States had to get going on it right away.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the first things first.
And they did.
First things, it was Sputnik. Now, and Sputnik was maybe 1957.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm 4 years old in 1957.
Yeah.
And then I think the first thing that we got up was called Echo. And Echo is basically a great big balloon that could inflate. Now it was called Echo because they could reflect radio signals off it. And you could say, "Oh, there's my satellite." In fact, it's high enough that you could reflect radio signals off it and let's say receive it on the other side of the country easily.
Right.
And so that was probably shortly after, like 1958 or 59. I vaguely remember my father taking me outside
Yeah.
and showing me echo going by because they published the past times.
And when you go by, you mean in the sky.
in the sky.
Yeah.
So my dad actually took me out and he showed me the moving dot.
Yeah, I remember you're up in my house and we saw that we saw the space station going over.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
You said that there it goes right there.
Yeah,
oh,
you-
really? Wow.
You can see the space station maybe 4 or 5 times a week if you feel like it.
Yeah.
And
Is those people still on the space station?
Oh, yeah.
Again, my men and the woman are still up there. They can't get them back till February.
Oh, them. I don't know. I thought I might have heard of them coming down in somebody else's, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I know because Musk had said, well, we just send somebody up to the space station and we have room. So, but they're going to be up there till February. If your guys are still there in February when we come back, you can have a ride.
You could have a ride.
But he said, we're not changing our,
Yeah,
we're
right.
not changing our mission for you. But
Right.
but if you want to ride back and you're still there when we come back, you got to ride.
Yeah, right.
But I think they might have gotten one since. And
Maybe, I don't know. I haven't heard, but lately I haven't really heard much about it, to be honest with you.
Here's somebody you should know. As a sci-fi reader from way back, there was a character in Robert Heinlein's early short stories. One of them was called "The Man Who Sold the Moon." It was about a rich entrepreneur who wanted so badly to go to the moon that he did everything he could to make it happen.
Yeah.
In fact, he even sent some guys. When the first guys who landed, they were supposed to bring back some diamonds that they'd actually hidden, so that they could make the moon more popular.
Yeah.
It turns out they found some diamonds, so that wasn't necessary. But
There's nothing on the moon that we don't have on the Earth, I gather.
yes and no.
Yeah, okay.
One of the great, if you feel like doing radio astronomy, you may want to put radio telescopes on the far side of the moon where you're not drowning in Earth's
Okay,
electromagnetic
yeah.
snow.
Okay, for that, yeah,
'Cause
then you can see it, yeah.
It just like when you want to be far away from the city to put up your telescope so you don't have a lot of light pollution. We've got radio pollution that at a shocking level. The Earth radiates in the radio spectrum like a star.
Does the moon rotate like the Earth does?
All depends on.
I heard that we really haven't seen at the telescope. You really can't see parts of the moon.
Oh, right. Yeah, you don't see the far side.
Right.
That's because it rotates once a month, so it's always showing us the same face.
Yeah.
It rotates with respect to the stars. The Earth turns with respect to the stars in 24 hours. The moon turns with respect to the stars in 1 month.
Yeah.
But it's just that 1 month is, as it goes around, it keeps turning. There's a really excellent reason for that I won't bother boring people with right now. But it's beautiful.
Yes, let's get to the point here as far as Elon. I'm not saying you get to the
No,
point,
go ahead.
but I'm saying that the point of it is that Elon Musk is, just because he endorsed or is working, in fact, the board is giving speeches and stuff for Donald Trump, he's the bad guy.
Yeah, for some people with a particular political persuasion.
Yeah.
But Elon isn't.
Especially some California bureaucrats.
Yeah, they don't like his politics.
Yeah.
Since Elon was pretty much a liberal Democrat for most of his political existence.
Yeah.
I think that there's one thing that the guy is he's results oriented, and the results that he would love to see
Right.
involve a lot of things becoming more effective.
Right.
And government doesn't care too much about being more effective. It would like to be more powerful and more rich.
Yeah.
Anyway, shall
let's
we
move on.
Yeah, there's something that I've been seeing.
You haven't heard the last of Elon, I'll tell you that.
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly. I hope not.
So there's something we've been seeing in the news. I'm going to use a phrase. I'm going to let's see if I can bring up. It's okay. The phrase is I want to show you up here. It's I can even point to it on the screen if you have it up. It's stochastic terrorism. Something to know about. Okay, the word stochastic gets used a lot of places that don't come up in ordinary conversation. But one way of interpreting it is random. It's like the description of the movement of gas molecules. It's pretty random to everybody's way of seeing it. Well,
Yeah.
stochastic terrorism refers to throwing out a lot of influences where what happens seems random, but but it's kind of predictable. In this case, we're saying it's like the use of mass public communication, usually against a particular individual, to incite or inspire acts of terrorism that are, like it says, statistically probable, but seemingly happen at random. It's like, let's say...
And they name it, give me an example. Hamas, would that be an example?
No, let me try it this way.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, but that's not a bad... Maybe I could make a connection there, but here's one. People say, let's say some very loud Democrats say, Trump is a fascist, Trump is Hitler, Trump is, this is the end of democracy as we know it. If, it's the end of it's the end. So if let's say that you're a good person. You're a Democrat, and so you believe too much of what you hear on TV, but you're a good person.
Yeah.
But you listen to this stuff, and if you're talking to, let's say 80 million Democrats, most of them are fine. And a few of them are wound a little too tight. Just like Republicans, most of them are fine, but a few are wound a little too tight.
Right.
And somebody may say, oh my God, they're right. He's Hitler, and nobody's doing anything about it.
There you go.
I'm coming, America. I'm going to do something about it. So
that's what they've done to Donald Trump.
Exactly. When you say to 80 million Democrats that Trump is Hitler, and most people are much too sensible to really take that seriously or try to assassinate him. But somebody, quite possibly very well-meaning, will take it to heart. And the thing is, you don't know who when you make these statements, but you do know that some people will be worked up enough.
Yeah, especially those numbers. I go back to what's his name, Kavanaugh.
Oh yeah,
the guy that. What did the senator say? What was it, right? You're going to pay for this?
You'll reap the whirlwind. They'll be hell to pay. This was about the
appointment, whatever it was.
There was an abortion-related decision, and here you are, a U.S. senator. In fact, one of the top U.S. senators in the country.
He's made majority whip.
Yeah, all right, exactly. All right, so majority whip in the Senate.
He's the majority
majority leader. I don't know.
Leader, right?
So, and he's saying they'll be held to pay, and he's painting a dire picture. And what do you know? Somebody who's wound a little too tight, goes to Kavanaugh's house and with a gun. Now, I include here people who insist on doxing people. They say they publish somebody's name and address and phone number and picture, and if some nut job shoots him, they'll say, I didn't mean for that to happen.
Yeah, right.
No, I just provided everything necessary for it to happen.
And you can't do nothing with them. They can't be prosecuted for that.
No, after all, they're saying, my hands are clean.
Yeah.
Well, they're not that clean, especially since these people they are too smart to be ignorant of the fact that it inspires this kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up is because Democrats are saying that Trump's
is Hitler.
Not only that Trump is Hitler, but also they're saying Trump and the Republicans, their rhetoric is too violent, and they're accusing Trump of stochastic terrorism, of essentially inciting. They say he knows that those people, somebody will do violence because of this, and you can always tell.
It works the other way too. You're doing the same thing.
Exactly.
If you want us to stop, you better stop.
Yeah, they'll talk.
Call people Hitler and stuff like that.
They'll talk about turning the rhetoric down, and the next thing I know, Kamala Harris is calling him a fascist, and Joe Biden is calling him a fascist. In fact, I'm going to show a couple more of these slides, but
go ahead.
Okay, there's accusations that Trump is a stochastic terrorist because his inflammatory rhetoric will stir up violence. Now, first of all, as you know, it's wrong to call for someone to be hurt.
Right.
Talking about something being a terrible thing that you wish other politicians wouldn't do, that's discussion.
Yeah.
But let's see. This is where I threw in the caption here. The left accuses you of exactly what they are doing. So we have here a non-player character version of look.
Biden? Who is that?
No, that's
supposed to be.
I'm sure that's supposed to be Anderson Cooper.
All right.
But
okay.
Say,
all right.
Orange man, stochastic terrorist. And so here are, this is a meme that you may be familiar with. These people are all non-player characters. In other words, they're sort of like robots. If you encounter these in a massive video game, other players are people who are animated by some player someplace, and then there are non-player characters who basically they just have the things that they mumble as you walk past them in the street in your video game. Anyway,
well, and added to that, of course, is the fact that they'll go in the history books.
Oh yeah,
we know who killed Lincoln. We know who killed Kennedy. You know, even though it was tried to assassinate Donald Trump. I mean, not Trump. Reagan.
Yes.
Ronald Reagan. We know all those guys. They made him famous.
Right. Would you know?
I think that guy's still alive, in fact.
And he's out.
Released.
And he's out. Yeah. Would you know John Hinckley if it weren't for that?
Yeah.
Of course you wouldn't. Now, actually, I'm going to try to throw in a little bit of humility because, and I got it from a dear friend. We were talking about this sort of thing, and he said, "I used to make fun of non-player characters until I realized I was one."
There you go. Yeah, I guess it's hard to do in politics. As you know, it goes back to when Jefferson was against John Adams in the 1800 election, and in fact, as Washington's first, I don't think it was even an election. Washington became president in 1788. In 1792, somebody ran against him, but of course he was still reelected, and could have kept the job anyway. But the bottom line is, that's what democracy is. It's an experiment every time there's an election. That's really what it amounts to. The fact that we can get somebody after an election, and democracy is voting. That's really what it amounts to. It's the government of the people. It's the people, but the peoples can't all govern. They have to hire representatives to do that. And that's what it is. And we have elections every 2 years. Sometimes we're never, the electorate is never wrong. Never wrong. It's always right. But they do get to change their mind every 2 years. You look at what happened to Barack Obama. He got elected in, what was it now?
2008. So
2008, right. And he had both houses of Congress, and things are going great. 2010 comes along, and he loses both houses of Congress, I guess what it was, and so it was the disaster, the midterm elections and that. In 2012, he goes to runs for president again and gets elected again. The voters were expressing the thing, and I think it was 2014 there was the different change of that. In fact, and then of course 2016 Donald Trump was elected, not Hillary Clinton.
You know, as long as we were touching on Barack Obama's history, after he lost in 2010, lost the House and maybe the Senate, he blamed correctly the Tea Party movement.
Yeah.
And what do you know? He had the IRS make it very, very hard for people who wanted to do Tea Party nonprofit corporations to do another one. So the IRS harassed the crap out of the Tea Party and basically hamstrung them, and that helped with his re-election quite a bit.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not.
Maybe. Politics is it's of the people voting. That is the poll that counts basically. All these polls that come out, that's the only one that actually counts, and it is 250 million people basically, or whatever, 150 million people who voted. They've decided what there's going to happen in the next 2 years. But again, politics is a sport that's fully contact, no pads, no rules, no nothing. It gets to be very, very nasty. And in fact, we're talking here Thursday night. We're going to be have an election in 3 days. You could see what I call a Bruce Hershenson. He was running for a Senate against Barbara Boxer. Barbara Boxer came out on a Saturday and said that Bruce Hershenson was he was going to girly shows. Oh, it was how terrible. And in fact, he was leading in the polls, and this happened on a Saturday. and he had no time really to talk about it. He went to the girly shows with his wife and another couple one time, but of course that didn't come out. And of course he lost that election. Barbara Boxer went on to become a senator, and was a senator for quite a while. My point being, this election is not over yet. And I don't know. I'm not even sure we'll know who has won on Tuesday night, as far as president's concerned, and a lot of other races too, the senators and things like that are going to be also there too. Anyway, what my thought was there, I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that. But
I just wanted to finish up with
Yeah.
the stochastic terrorism.
Yeah.
Here's our friend. This guy, you may have heard of him. He's allegedly the president of the United States, and
he's talking, he means it. This is not a joke. This is the guy who also wants to replace every civil servant, every single one. Thinks he has a right under the Supreme Court ruling on immunity to be able, if need be, if it was the case, to actually physically eliminate, shoot, kill someone who he believes to be a threat to him. I mean, so I know this sounds bizarre. It sounds like if I said this 5 years ago, you'd lock me up. We gotta lock him up. Politically lock him up.
all right, he did get the weasel words in.
He's talking about.
when did he say this? When was it? Recently?
It's fairly recent. All right, 14 days before the election, so
Yeah.
it was only a few days ago.
But that's the kind of thing you say, and I don't think Donald Trump's going to go to jail. I can tell you that right now. In fact, you don't hear about all those cases right now. They're sort of, you don't hear anything about it at all. In fact, if he gets elected president, and of course if he doesn't, they'll all drop it. They want to forget about the guy at that point. They don't want his name to come up even. Although I think Don Lemon will come back. He'll make a big comeback if Donald Trump gets elected. Don Lemon was going to make a big comeback, get hired back at CNN, because it was a gold mine for Don Lemon.
Yeah, well,
What's
somebody
next?
else who would probably be on screen a lot more, it would be Rachel Maddow, because
That's true too.
on
Right.
MSNBC
She's
was
still on. Don Lemon is, I don't know,
but-
isn't on TV at all anymore.
But she's not on screen a lot now, and I think that if Trump gets elected, we'll be seeing her all the time.
Yeah.
As it is, all of their they've got I can't think of all of them, but they got Chris Hayes and Lawrence O'Donnell and all these people who solemnly intone that Trump is Hitler or something, words to that effect, or that. Anyway, you make up a horrible thing to accuse somebody of, and one of them is probably saying it.
Yeah. Let's move on, because we're already halfway through the show and we've already been talking about. That's an interesting thing to say that well, like I say, like you said, you motivate people to do stuff, and they want to be famous, and they say, well, let's do something about it. Well, let's try to kill him. And that's what they've done with Donald Trump. They've tried twice, maybe 3 times even.
Who knows how many times? But here's somebody who you may recall. We used to think that she was the Republican senator from Wyoming, but
No, she was a representative. She was never a senator.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, you're right. She Republican representative from Wyoming. Of course, Wyoming only gets 1 representative.
Yeah.
Anyway, and of course she's been thrown out of office since. I would say, since the person who succeeded her is also a Republican because she got primaried.
Yeah.
It's because she was basically the Republican face for the January 6th committee. And,
Right, exactly,
Which
yeah.
Republicans did they choose? It was
That's when she was in the House.
her and there was the other was, what is it, Adam Kinzinger?
Yeah, the guy from Illinois, I think it is, or Indiana. I think it's from Illinois.
Okay, not sure exactly where, but anyway, those two, they were Republicans who never tried to restrain the committee. Now, if they were doing good work, hooray, but you'd like to think that, oh, this guy is my president, maybe if there's anything to be said in his favor, not that you should lie,
Yeah.
I would never suggest, but if there's anything to be said in his favor, or any mitigating circumstances, maybe you could bring that stuff up, or you could ask, well, gosh, where did you get that information? Is that real? But no, they were just on board. Out of her mouth and out of Adam Kinzinger's mouth, Trump was already evil, horrible, convicted before the hearings opened.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a little too backstabby for me. It's not that you have to be loyal to somebody who's bad, but to not give them a fair hearing, that's a little too far. So anyway, here she is telling us she's a Republican, and what is she telling us? She's telling us that it is very important that Republicans not be in the majority in the House come January 2025. Presumably because the House can at least impeach Trump for a third time.
Yeah, right,
Even
exactly.
though we like the portmanteau shampeachment, because an impeachment that's a sham.
Yeah.
I refer to it as shampeachment 1 and shampeachment 2. Both of
the
which.
second one was that he wasn't even president anymore.
Yes, and
Even a lame duck. He was not the president anymore.
And since the Democrats knew perfectly well what kind of evidence they had to bring forward, they must have known perfectly well that they would not carry the day.
Right, of course.
And the entire purpose of this stuff, considering what they knew, the only purpose could be to dirty up Trump.
Well, like I always say about this impeachment, is there'll never be a president will be impeached. Well, he wouldn't be impeached. That's the charges.
We've had
but
it done.
He'll never be put out of office based upon the evidence and so on. If anyone ever is going to go, it would have been Andrew Johnson in 1865. Actually, was almost the end of that term. So it would have been late 67, early 1868, and so on and so forth, when the Republicans had complete dominance of both houses of Congress and so on. And unfortunately, he was impeached. He went to the Senate. It was voted on. They always they could easily. I think it was only 9 Democrats senators, and the rest of them were all Republicans. It would have been a slam dunk. But the Republicans that were there said, no, we're not going to vote him to get out. Plus the fact was he was going to be gone anyway in a few months. They couldn't wait to get rid of the guy and so on. If they couldn't do that with that kind of leverage and so on, it never will happen. And they had no leverage against Donald Trump for sure.
So while I've never cared for the Biden presidency, I allow as he is the president, but but it's something we should have seen. This would have been another first, and we could already have had our first female president, because Biden's mental condition is exactly what the 25th Amendment is for.
Right, exactly.
That it could have been applied, and look, you still would have had a Democrat president. It would have been Kamala Harris, who they want to be president now. So.
Well, that's not over yet, you know. He's going to be the president until January 20th of this next year.
Or something could happen, God forbid, as we like to say.
He just resign, and then Hillary. Then there we would have the first. She'll lose the election, but you could still be president for that short period of time, and we will have had then a woman president, maybe only for 2 months, a month and a half, but she would be the president. Who knows what will happen, right? That could easily happen.
You were recently doing a show with Jim Worthen. You and Jim introduced me to the phrase psychedelic politics, and it's things that almost certainly won't happen, but they can. One of them is Hillary Clinton could have been president. If let's say Joe Biden said, I'm not up to it anymore, and Kamala Harris were to decline, all what would have to happen was the House could have made Hillary Clinton Speaker of the House, because interestingly enough, the Speaker of the House does not have to be a congressman.
Is that right?
The Speaker of the House is whoever a majority of House members elect to be the Speaker of the House. So they could have made Hillary Speaker, and if Joe and Kamala, or Kamala, I forget, let's say Kamala, if they both stepped aside, then boom, Hillary Clinton would have been president.
Yeah, right.
Going to happen? Probably not.
Yeah,
but
right.
can it? Yes, it can.
Yes, it can, right.
And that is, so that was my introduction. Was, oh, psychedelic politics.
Yeah.
You won't believe your eyes. You'll be sure you're hallucinating, but yeah, this can happen.
Yeah.
So as long as I was touching on a famous supposed Republican, Liz Cheney, here's a
Gerald Ford's daughter.
Gerald Ford's daughter. I can't even name Gerald Ford's daughter.
Right. I don't know.
I literally can't. And when Liz Cheney posted this, she didn't bother on her Twitter/X account. She didn't bother to post what Gerald Ford's daughter's name is. Gerald Ford, for those who don't recall, was, let's see, he succeeded, then he succeeded Nixon because, let's see, Nixon had his vice president was Agnew was taken out on a corruption charge.
And caught with his pants down, so they got rid of him. So they had to appoint, or they didn't have to appoint.
Then Nelson Rockefeller was.
Well, when I say take his pants down, he caught with his finger in the jar. You know.
Yeah. Yes, that was a corruption charge.
He resigned.
But he resigned. Then we got Nelson Rockefeller briefly, and I think he either died or his health
really?
intervened. Yes. It was, Rockefeller was briefly vice president of the United States.
Okay.
And so this had to be around '73, and then they appointed Ford to be vice president, and he was the designated hitter because then Nixon was sort of forced out, and God knows what they had, because they said, well, you'll be impeached, and officially Nixon said, well, I have to, I'm going to avoid that. Literally his words were, America needs a full-time president and a full-time Congress, and so he was stepping aside to, anyway, today, well, we saw Trump managed to soldier on through 2 impeachments, and I think that Nixon might very well have survived his.
Yeah, that's what I always say. I think if Fox News had been around in Nixon's time, you might not have seen it, because they never actually impeached him even.
No.
He resigned before that.
And Bob Woodward, one of the reporters was Woodward and Bernstein, who did the Watergate,
whatever they
wrote
call
the story.
That.
And well, here's the thing. The informant, Deep Throat, the informant was some guy in the FBI. And also, Bob Woodward was formerly Naval Intelligence. And here's a Naval Intelligence officer who's out of the Navy and goes to the Washington Post, and he's a brand new reporter, and he is handed the biggest freaking story in the country.
Right.
Now, do you think that brand new reporters are handed the biggest story in the country?
Yeah.
Well, normally no. But he was Naval Intelligence, or formerly. So I really look at that as they took Nixon out and swapped Ford in.
Yeah, right.
Could I be wrong? Of course I could. What the heck do I know?
Whatever happened to Bernstein, too? Woodward's written all kinds of books and so on. I see him on CNN all the time.
I'm not sure. I've seen Bernstein sometime in the last 10
maybe
years.
Anti-Semitic? Let's put that out there. Maybe it's anti-Semitic. By the way, Gerald Ford is the only president that was not elected. He never ran for president. He was the highest office he ever held election-wise he was a congressman from Michigan. That was it. After that, he was just appointed and finally ended up being appointed to the president of the United States. And he ran again, of course, in '60 and lost.
Well, look at Kamala. She was out of the contention in 2020
right, there you go.
Before they even did the first primary, because her numbers were polling in the very low single digits.
Even in California.
Yeah, she was not, so in other words, as a political figure, she was not well loved and accepted. And I don't know how she wound up being VP, except that she was perhaps a woman of color. Wow, there's a qualification.
Yeah.
It's not a disqualification, that's for sure, but a qualification. But of course, Joe had said...
And Asian too, by the way.
Yes.
A black Asian.
So Joe had said, I'm going to appoint, he says, I'm going to choose a black woman for my running mate. Well, then people are saying, how dare you say that she's a diversity hire? He said, wait a second. He said he was going to pick a black woman, and he did.
Right,
so,
exactly.
I mean, that suggests that That was a very high weighted criterion.
Yeah.
Okay, so she was never went through an election process in the primaries. Then she gets selected. Now she didn't go through primaries in 2024. It was
Right.
It's going to be Joe, and then boom. Now
Boom.
that
All of a
the
sudden, it was
primary season
Pelosi just said, "It's you. Your turn."
primary season is all over, and boom, it's her. So literally, she's never, except for being number 2 on the ticket, she's never been voted for,
Yeah.
even by the Democrats, who now, they weren't too enthused, except the instant that she was designated, suddenly,
Right.
now we love her. Now
Yeah.
she's the greatest thing ever. Now she's so qualified, we can barely spit out the words of how qualified she is.
Yeah. And of course, Vice President, she didn't do much because Vice Presidents don't do much. They really don't have any real job to do other than this, President of the Senate. And of course, they break the vote, which she has done as far as breaking ties.
Yeah, I'm thinking how I would kind of like to get a little humor in, but let's see. Do you mind if I jump ahead?
Go right ahead, yeah.
I mean, I'd like to think that all of this is the entertainment portion of our program.
Right.
But
yes.
this might be more of the let's run with. This is something I've gotten a big kick out of, is that Trump and his people have been taking some of the things that Kamala Harris says, and they just run them and endorse them because they think, if I just show that, people will get how wacky she is. So
something differently than President Biden.
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
Kamala wouldn't change a thing, even though her radical agenda costs American lives. Kamala allowed dangerous criminals through our border, including Johan Martinez and Franklin Ramos.
Yes.
Charged with gang raping
This may even be the wrong one.
A 12-year-old girl, destroying innocents, tearing apart communities, and devastating families.
Oh, there it is.
Won't change a thing, so Americans will continue to lose their lives.
Unfortunately, it isn't as humorous as the, and yes, it is very serious. There's another same jumping off point, and I think well worth seeing, which, after all, I like seeing it.
Anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
No.
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
So yeah, that's what I'm getting. There's a humor element and also an effective element that Trump can look at some of the stuff that she's saying. He says, "Yeah, just make sure people know that she's saying that."
Well, wasn't there, I know there's a strip of some kind where Joe Biden actually stated that she was going to take care of the immigration problem.
Yeah, I don't have that with me today.
I'm not saying you do. I'm just saying that.
Yeah.
So it's right there in front of you. That she did have responsibility. She was, I call it a czar.
Yeah,
And
the border
she did have
czar.
responsibility to do that. And obviously she didn't go down to the border. Maria Bartiromo, a woman on Fox Business and so on, she's been down there more times than anybody else. They should have made her the czar. She knew the place like a book.
And of course, she was joking about it, but Kamala Harris was asking, she said, "Well, you haven't been to the border." And she says, "I haven't been to Europe."
Right,
And,
there you go. What did that have to do with it,
yeah,
right?
and of course, you had been
And
to
why
Europe.
haven't you been to Europe, by the way?
Yeah. And of course, she had,
But in that one, he actually gave her a job to do.
yes.
It's in writing. It's you can see the faces. That's what he said. She was sitting next to him when he said it, and obviously she didn't do nothing.
Please, that didn't do anything. Anyway. Oh, let's see. There's
About that, at least. Well, about anything really. We know about it, at least.
Here's the thing, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder
him to hide away. One last question. Are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable?
Okay, this is a person who has avoided any long form, usually it takes only previously submitted questions, whereas Trump is doing 2, 3, 4 rallies a day.
Right.
And this is including, after getting shot in Pennsylvania. So what the heck world are we even living in where she can say that? I mean, sometimes I think people know, well, I know that they won't be looking at the stuff that would tell them that I'm wrong, so I can say this.
The whole idea that back when he was the president, there was a psychiatrist who never really talked to him at all. They decided that something was wrong with him mentally. Donald Trump and so on. And these are the experts in the whole area. Except the trouble is they were expert Democrats. Guess what they said?
Well, interestingly enough, since experts are almost always professors, and it turns out that these days, if you look at political affiliations in college campuses, most professors, like to the tune of 70+% are Democrats, and most experts also turn out to be Democrats. So you're really fishing in the wrong pool if you're looking for any kind of balance. And I wouldn't say that if they had the personas of judges who really go deep to make sure that they're unbiased, but they don't. I've been watching this way too long, and my father said to me many years ago, this is the time, if there are any great statesmen out there, this would be a great time to step forward.
Yeah, right.
We're still watching.
I'm not so sure there ever was one of those. You never know.
It's really closer to the way our system is currently structured. It would not promote a great statesman.
Yeah. A
great statesman who truly went for the truth and went for balance, that doesn't seem to sell.
Yeah, well, you would think that a great statesman would acknowledge the fact that he's wrong or she's wrong, that there is a different point of view, and then try to go from there. For a compromise. A statesman is, I would say, by definition, a man or a woman of let's get together and talk about this, the oppositions and so on, not stuff that you hear here, Hitler and Mussolini. No, I don't know. Mussolini wasn't a bad guy, actually. He was a bad guy. He just got mixed up with the wrong crowd. the Germans. That's what I have begun to feel. In fact, is he should never have gone to war in World War II. He didn't get into war until I think it was 2 years before he decided to declare war on Britain and France. Anyway, that's another story. But the bottom line is. Yes, Kamala Harris is just, let's see, another one. She laughs a lot.
He has, quote, concepts of a plan. Concepts.
So I would rather have concepts of a good plan than great detail and dedication to a crappy plan.
Yeah.
And for one thing, we've heard her trying to blame inflation on greedy corporations. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, so you're telling me that when Trump was in office, corporations weren't greedy. They just became greedy after Biden was elected.
Yeah.
What? Just inflation, God bless him, Milton Friedman nailed this 40 or 50 years ago. Inflation is a product made in Washington because inflation is increase in the money supply. And
exactly.
I mean, how does that happen? Well, we actually know how it happens. In the United States, the federal government says, we're going to borrow, we'd like to borrow $2 trillion. And although that $2 trillion doesn't exist in the sense that a pound of butter exists, the central
Who are they going to
bank,
borrow it from?
the central bank literally creates
right.
an entry on the
print the
books
money.
that says they print, or these days since it's all electronic, they just say, okay, here's $2 trillion,
Yeah.
which you may borrow from us because we created it, and you get to pay us interest, and you also get to spend it. Now, see, before inflation, before the government could do that, if they wanted to spend money, they literally had to tax people so that they had money to spend. And it turns out, gosh, nobody really likes getting taxed a bunch more.
Yeah.
But you know, when this money just appears and the government spends it, and there's all these companies that got contracts, and there's people on the dole who got more money, they all get, oh, this is jolly, the government is giving us money, it's how wonderful. But they haven't done the hard part, which is telling people you're going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So, but of course, it does have to get paid for, because everybody, when the government spends that money, they spend it on stuff that you could have bought, except the government bid higher.
Yeah.
They are stealing the buying power of the money you have saved, or the
Yeah.
money you're earning tomorrow.
Yeah.
But they get to spend that, and you never got a tax bill for it. So it's all nice and stealthy. But literally, one of the greatest insights I was ever given was that the tax rate is the spending rate.
Yeah.
Because you will either pay for it in taxes now, you will pay for it in taxes later because it was
Right.
borrowed, or you will pay for it in the decrease in the value of the savings of money you've already worked for.
Anyway,
oh my God!
As a last thought, I like to say that this is the whole thing is going to come flying down, because it isn't the debt anymore. We're never going to pay the debt off. It's the interest on the debt that we're having trouble. That is the largest item in the budget, if they even have a budget. That is the thing that they can't pay that anymore. Except, of course, they can, because they just print the money. There's going to be a day here, one of these days, when it's going to collapse, when people now don't buy bonds anymore. Of course, they don't buy bonds anyway. Actually, the government buys its own bonds. Anyway,
Let's hear for Elon Musk. I hope he, when Trump is elected, if he is,
yeah.
I hope that he winds up doing a bunch of things for efficiency in the government.
Well, I think I've said before that when Elon Trump calls the president, the president will answer the phone.
Ah, yes.
And he won't put him in the government. That'll be the mistake. But he'll go to him for advice, because he's an achiever.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you enjoyed it. We only got a little bit of the show done here to talk about here, but we'll see what happens now in 3 or 4 days.
I hope you're having fun. I know we are.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
yeah.
you very much. See you again.
And email us.